Ezekiel Elliott, who is seeking a new contract, he's making about $3.8 million this year, will not play if he doesn't get a new deal. This is unique. This is not like Le'Veon Bell.
Nope.
Who had finished his contract.
Was not under contract.
Had not signed his franchise tag, and he decided to sit out a year of his prime. Zeke's got 2 years left, right? Do the Cowboys cave? Should the Cowboys cave? Particularly because without Zeke, I don't know how they're winning a championship.
Okay, before we start getting into that, there are two factors that led into this. Number one, the previous CBA allowing that fifth-year option. Ezekiel Elliott knows that they have the fifth-year option, and then they can franchise him for 2 more years after that to where they can just run him into the ground. So he sees the light at the end of the tunnel. But also, number two, this is also on the Dallas Cowboys, the fact that they didn't start taking care of these things last season. So now you've got your 3-star players all on the same side of the ball who you have to pay and who want their money. If they would have done it last year and would have started working out things with Amari Cooper and Dak Prescott, they could have changed all of this to where this narrative would not be taking place. And the biggest person who has the biggest leverage in it is Amari Cooper.
Yeah.
You're not going to trade and give up a first-round draft pick for a guy for a year and a half and then just let him walk. So that's the first two aspects that led into this completely. But you just think about what Ezekiel Elliott is doing and what he's standing for. 2 years left on your contract. Every other organization and every other GM in the NFL is watching this, because if they do this with 2 years left, it's setting a complete standard that has not been met in the NFL. And this all started with the basketball lost season. Think about Anthony Davis doing everything.
Right.
Think about Kawhi Leonard's big catastrophe in San Antonio. But the biggest one, Paul George, 1 year after his contract, he demands a trade and they trade him.
Yeah.
So when you see now that players understand that they have leverage, that they can put their foot forward and have an agent do it for them,
hold on.
It's a different standard than it's ever been before.
Basketball players have leverage. Basketball players have power. NFL players don't have that. But to your point,
that's what's leading all this into it.
They see it.
Without a doubt. They
see
definitely
it, and they say
that.
This is unfair. And Zeke, by the way, Zeke should be making at least $12 million a year, right? He's making $3 million, so he's grossly underpaid. So I get why he's doing this. And the Cowboys, Stephen Jones said this, I think earlier, maybe it was last week or maybe earlier this week, they don't want to be the market setter. And I know what he's saying. He's saying because Le'Veon Bell's deal is an albatross, right?
Yes.
It's based off of, Adrian Peterson's ridiculous deal, which brought up the franchise tag, and after they tagged them, that becomes a starting. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
it
was all projections and all how they built it.
It's off the chart, right? The more appropriate one is Todd Gurley, who is also about $10 or $12 million per year throughout the length of the contract. That's where it should start. But that one's also kind of convoluted. So the Cowboys are sitting in a position where they're going to pay a running back who are devalued in the league 2 years before his deal is up because he deserves it. And I'm trying to think back in the history of sport.
Never happened.
Other than a quarterback?
It's never happened for another position.
It's never happened for another position. But if you're the Cowboys, don't you have to do this? Right? If you want to win a championship, if you want to keep things copacetic and moving in the right direction, don't you have to do this if you're the Cowboys?
Everything runs through Ezekiel Elliott on that football team. You want to load an eighth man in the box and force the football into Dak Prescott's hands. But when they get the ball going and when they start running downhill, they're in third and manageables, and Dak Prescott's play-action passing goes up 60%.
That's right.
There's a reason for it, because they're accounting for Ezekiel Elliott and understand what he means to that offense. Don't get me wrong. We saw what Amari Cooper meant to that football team, bringing out that big, deep threat that they didn't have since Dez Bryant. We understand how it expanded the offense and what they wanted to do. But once again, this is the NFC East that we're talking about, and this is NFL football, that no matter what happens with these spread offenses and running this air raid, running the football never gets old.
By the way,
because it wins football games. And look at the New England Patriots in the postseason.
That's right. It's all about, even if it's not one guy, but the Cowboys have to do it with one guy because their best player is Ezekiel Elliott. But the Patriots do it with 5 or 6 guys. And by the way, you don't think the Pats are a top 10 rushing team? They were 7 last year.
Yep.
7 in the league in rushing. You couldn't point to who it was, Sony Michel and a couple other guys. But you have to have that. Amari Cooper is taken care of. Amari Cooper's making $14 million on the fifth-year option. He's going to get paid, whether it's by the Dallas Cowboys or someone else next season. But to your point, it's got to be the Dallas Cowboys because they traded away a first-rounder, a second-rounder, I think a third-rounder, maybe even a fourth to get him with the Oakland Raiders. And so in order to justify that, they have to keep him.
They have to pay.
So Amari Cooper's okay. Dak is going to be okay. He's a starter for a couple of years. The question is what the number is going to be. The only one that's not going to be okay is Ezekiel Elliott, right?
Without a doubt.
If he doesn't do this, and it sucks for the Cowboys because they're going to have to pony up 2 years early and set a precedent, which is going to just really screw up the CBA.
No question.
We'll get to that in a minute.
We will.
We'll get to that in a minute. But if they don't do this, I think the common thought is they don't have a chance to seek this championship that they or Jerry Jones so desperately wants.
And I know that they go back. Well, Alfred Morris, when he filled in when he was suspended, still averaged almost 5 a clip.
Okay.
But those 5 a clips aren't going for touchdowns.
Exactly.
Those wide receiver passes, the ones that go in the swing screen, that now all of a sudden you spread out the defense. Now you have Ezekiel Elliott one-on-one up against the linebacker. That's a win on the offensive side of the ball. That's not happening with these other backs.
Like, you know this. It's not about the 5 yards and you know, let's keep it regular. It's about 5 yards, 5 yards, 5 yards, 70.
And then you start wearing and grinding down a defense so that in the third and fourth quarter, their defensive ends are worn down. Their offense is just sitting back watching you take over the football game. And when you're able to do that and control the time of possession the way that they do with their offensive line, that is a win because that lets Rob Marinelli's defense run wild,
and
swarm to the football, and that's how they've won football games.
And their defense has gotten significantly better
no question.
over the last few years. It used to be you just worry about the offense. They're good on the defensive side of the ball now. So, you know, the question you put out there, do the Cowboys have to pay Ezekiel Elliott? This is unprecedented, right? What Le'Veon Bell did last season where he sat out was also unprecedented, but it had reason behind it, right? He was about to be franchised and really beat up and made irrelevant as far as his contract is concerned. Obviously, he's never going to be an irrelevant player, but as far as his contract is concerned, if he would have played another year on a franchise tag, he would have never gotten paid.
Never.
He had to do that. He was not under contract. Ezekiel Elliott is under contract. He has his fourth year, which is $3.8 million, and then he has his franchise year, or his fifth-year option.
Which is $9.1.
Which is $9.1 million. It's a little bit closer to equitable.
But still not compared to the rest of the backs in the league.
Still not compared to the top-end backs of the league. So if you're the Cowboys, are you going to do something unprecedented because you need them to win a championship, or are you going to hold firm? That's the question. What do you think they should do?